on Ritual and Psychodrama.
Necronomicon is coming.
In this video, I'm going to talk about the different aspects of ritual and what a term that I learned, which is psychodrama. Now, what are these two different things, and what do they have to do with each other? Hopefully this video actually comes out good, because I can see my computer lagging, and I remember that happened when I was making the video on retrogrades or something like that, and that kind of messed stuff up. But anyway, so let's go through some definitions here with ritual first. Ritual is defined as a religious or solemn ceremony consisting of a series of actions performed according to a prescribed order. And when it comes to psychodrama, psychodrama is an action method often used in psychotherapy in which clients use spontaneous dramatization, role-playing, and dramatic self-presentation to investigate and gain insight into their lives. So, if you can think in terms of any magical rituals that you've seen being done, or in the context of the Necronomicon, something like the gate walking, you can kind of, or hopefully we can kind of get to an understanding of the fact that through the ritual, which is a prescribed set of actions that you take, comes the psychodrama. It's almost as if you're acting out a play, or basically creating a scene that is so vivid and you get put into so well, like you lose yourself in it, that it causes psychological changes and energetic changes inside of you to evoke the different changes that you want in your life. Now, I like to take this angle on things because I think I've mentioned it a couple of times before. My bachelor's is in psychology, and I think that's what gravitated me to spiritual work and working with magic in the first place, was the idea that I could kind of understand it if I translated it from, energetics into psychological terms. And the example that I thought of when I had the idea to make this video was this. Think of any traumatic events or events in your life that are very, very, they had a great impact, whether very, very scary or terrible, or very, very ecstatic and happy. You might have, like, somebody that could have gone through some trauma with another individual might have lasting changes in their personality due to that traumatic example. Like, if somebody happened to be in an elevator and the cable snapped, I highly doubt that they're ever going to go into an elevator again, because every single time that they do that, they're going to think that the cable's going to snap. Makes me think of the Tower of Terror in, Disney World? Yeah. So the purpose behind ritual is to kind of create an event that will have so much of an impact that it changes you from that point on. So whatever you're focusing on in a ritual, if you can make it so psychologically deep that you lose yourself in it, and it's not like, okay, I mean, I know that there's prescribed steps, but you're not so robotic about it. Okay, I lit the candle. Okay, now I take this. Okay, now I do, when you kind of really flow with it, and that's why it's very helpful to do these different rituals for different changes in your life multiple times. Even like the Necronomicon spellbook says that, give it a try several times, and then sit back and enjoy the show. Which, if you do it enough times, getting used to the energy and things like that, stuff starts to come up, and the process of even learning the script it flows better, it flows faster. So when we have these different rituals that we can use, regardless of the book that you get them from, I mean, I don't care if it's like Silver Ravenwolf, Christopher Penksack, Constantinos, Raven Digitalis, or any of the other ones. Those are the first couple of books that I ended up buying when I first got into it, so that's why they popped off my head. Like Donald Michael Craig, or what's the other one? Nope, I lost it. Anyway, so any of those rituals that you engage in, if you can make them as dynamic as possible, the more likely they are to have an impact on you, especially if you repeat them. So I've gotten a lot of emails asking people if, when they're doing a Necronomicon spellbook, one of the seals, if they can maybe put in different things from their own personal magical background on their altar, whether it be a certain ritual object or maybe an animal bone or things like that, those are perfectly acceptable when using one of the names of Marduk, because it's just drawing you in more, because you end up feeling more comfortable in the environment, because you have more familiar objects. You're not just doing something brand new for the first time, or maybe the second time and you're getting a little bit better. The third time you're getting a little bit better, and you're still out of your element because it's all new things to you. You know, when it's the first time I ever had to just sit with a book, an index card that I drew on, and 2 candles. I mean, the first time that I did it, I still had a couple of my own personal ritual objects, and it was on an altar that I had made, it's over here. I'll have to show that in another vid. That I had made actually out of a shelf, like one piece of shelf, and it had a lot of Hylian script because I'm a Zelda nerd, and some other things on it, but I still used it for the Necronomicon spell because I was comfortable with that. Did I invoke any of the energies and things that I had from the symbols on the altar? No, I stuck to the framework. But the more that you can switch your brain from just this is another activity I'm doing to this is a big thing that I'm doing. I mean, that's the main reason why a lot of magical systems say you should have a robe that you only use, or different objects that you only use for rituals. So you know when you put that thing on, or you wear that thing, or you pick up that one object, you know it's like game on. You're not going to use that for some mundane purpose. You're only going to use it for getting into a calm state of mind, examining what's going on in there, asking the powers around you for help, and taking action to switch it in a way. I mean, for example, if you wanted to, one of my personal favorites, bind something, then when you are binding a cord with, let's say, 13 knots, every single time that you do it, you can put extra muscle strength in there to release the tension that you're feeling against that hatred for that thing that you're trying to bind, whether it be a person, a behavior, a memory even. And the more emotional oomph that you put in there, the more serious it can be. I remember watching a video on YouTube of this guy's ritual idea about cursing somebody, where if you're wishing ill will on them, where you actually make an effigy and you beat the effigy senseless, literally until, and he tells you this, until you are no more physically able to move, because you have taken out all of your energy and all of your stress out on the object. And the point is to do this so much that you end up falling asleep. Now, if you think about exhausting literally all of your physical, mental, and emotional energy on an object, you've run out of gas. So that's kind of meant to be what in psychology is called an extinction burst, where you let out all of that psychological impulse towards something to squish it forever. A lot of times when people are trying to, when you're trying to curb a negative behavior in a person, the negative behavior will actually increase for a little while before it has an extinction burst, and then it'll go away. It's kind of like the episode of The Simpsons when they wanted to go to Mount Splashmore, and all they did was nag Homer for like 5 hours, and it shows clips throughout the night of them saying, can you take us to Mount Splashmore, over and over and over and over again, and then it got louder and louder and louder, and then if Homer had just fallen asleep, that would have been the extinction burst. It would have been over and done with. But he caved in, so that also reinforces that behavior. So basically, let's talk about the reinforcement of the behavior for a second. If you go about your life having this negative action or this negative person around you, and you don't do something about it, you're perpetuating it. You're asking for that thing to continue to happen. You're not putting a stop to it. So doing these rituals and enacting enough psychodrama through the ritual that you plan, they can be as elaborate as you like. Sometimes I do a Name of Marduk spell just by simply sitting down and meditating, and sometimes I don't do the invocation of the 4 gates from the world in between the spheres, or any of the other offerings, and sometimes I do. It depends on the state of mind that I'm already in. If I find myself very, very, very clear and open, then I'll skip all of the invocations of the gates and stuff, and I'll just get right down to it. But I know if I need to slowly switch into that mode and get into that rhythm, then I purposely force myself to have a larger ritual where I take more time with more steps, because it's knocking on your brain saying, hey, wake up, we got to go and do this thing, and we have to be thinking like this. We have to be thinking upwards, not downwards, spiritually, not mundanely. So when we switch our minds like that through these processes that we make very special, very elaborate, it can have a positive effect on switching or extinguishing something, or even changing our viewpoints on things, kind of the same way as a traumatic event could do for somebody, where they go through something and then all of a sudden their behavior's different, their outlook on life is different. Maybe they don't like the same things anymore. They might have an irrational fear, things like that, with a traumatic experience with the psychodrama of it, and kind of flip that to the good part, or the good view on how big events can change your life. Like somebody who was totally afraid of heights, went along with their friend to bite the bullet and go skydiving, and then all of a sudden he's not afraid of heights anymore. Kind of the same thing. Kind of wanted to turn it a little bit more positive, other than the other examples I was giving. So when we embark in these rituals, the idea is to really make it so beautiful and so impactful that it makes a lasting psychological change up here and in here. Because I think that a lot of people, whether they are spiritual, like pagan, or of any of the major religions, sometimes they're just asking the upstairs for help. Help me to be a better person. Help me to not have this anger. Help me to, whatever. And they're not relying on themselves to make that change. Stepping into ritual and enacting psychodrama allows us to trick our minds into making the positive changes that we want, with the energetic help from the spirits around us. But we are not the ones with the training wheels on, and they're not the ones telling us exactly where to go. They're just here to help. So I hope that my explanation of ritual and psychodrama made sense. Let me know, and questions, comments, complaints, concerns, issues, drop them in the comments. Good hunting.